care. And some researchers go as far back as 4 years old that we actually have developed our main beliefs and habits and attitudes at 4. Now, if you read about it, they're fighting a little bit about it, what actually the age is, but they all agree by the age of 13, 14. So we have developed our beliefs and attitudes and behaviors very, very early in life. And how often do we see it as coaches, how we are held back as adults, make terrible decisions or be stuck in a job for things we have learned when we were kids. So if we are talking about mental health and giving people the skills to go through life, to be able to handle those curveballs we get thrown by in life, and they all happen, and be able to handle them maturely with the set of skills, we really need to start at that level. And that's how it started. That's the idea. Okay. Yeah, so I just let somebody else talk.
Yeah, I just pulled up the vision we created for Educology like 2 months ago, and I just wanted to read it, so and then we can talk about it. So the mission for us is Educology is to facilitate the process of rethinking education based on strengths. That was what we were talking about today: growth mindset and resilience, with the focus of transforming the educational system. So this is what we gave ourselves as a mission. And now Educology goes in different directions. So we are the 5 of us or 6 of us at the moment, and each one of us has different like directions or specialties, knowledge, education. So, and we want to build like a foundation, so with strong pillars, so that we have the umbrella of Educology on strong feet, and can then go outside ecology. And that's the big thing. We want to go outside with Educology and meet other people, as Gabi said, like educators, coaches, social workers, parents. That's a big part, and we talked a lot about parenting today. Yeah, that's what we actually want to do.
Okay, so going on a couple of things that have been said earlier, you said you talked about strengths and you've talked about role models. So within Educology, how do you go about creating a community of good role models for younger generations to be learning from?
So it's by leading by example. We've all been there ourselves with the struggling and making colossal mistakes with our own children, and learning from those mistakes and actually building stronger foundations in the family unit that we're actually going to get it all accumulated in Educology and get it out there. And we would like to work with the parents first, because it's like the pebble in the water, the ripple effect. You change one person, or you help one person, and it can change a whole community around that person, and it can also automatically go down the generations to the children. So if we can build the community of just stronger people, more focused and goal focused, just passionate people who believe in themselves, community. That's one of my biggest dreams, is just to have that community there for people to meet up in person and actually communicate.
Gabby or Matt or anyone else want to go further on building the role models for the community of Educology?
Peter might have a question.
Yes, I saw Credi's hand. Yes.
Okay. I just want to build upon what Stacy said. So when I was in the situation as a parent that I want to change something from the bottom, like from foundational, there were no role models. There were no people who were like giving the hand, and I was looking for hands. So, and what I want to create, and this is what was Gabi, is what Gabi was saying. So building this community of role model means I want to have a group of people like me, myself, were looking for 5 years ago, 7 years ago. So this is the basic idea. We don't want to teach anybody. We just want to be there and help with the skills and the knowledge and the experiences we have through our life paths, so that we can educate and equip parents who want to change something, who want to go on another way. And this is what Stacy said about the ripple effect, right? So finding one parent, and they find another parent, and they find another parent, and this is this collective awakening of, okay, we want to do something different. And then this is the way how we can transform the educational system, because we saw it with organic food, right? Like 15, 20 years ago, nobody wanted organic food, right? In the stores, in the supermarkets, it was like the last aisle of the supermarket. But then people, they awoke and they started to request organic food. So in the supermarkets, they had to adjust. Yeah, and now we have like 2-3 aisles of organic food and vegetables and fruits, and it's the same with the educational system. So we can't like change the whole thing radically. That doesn't work, because it's too strong in itself. But when we start like with small little tiny steps, so then we can create a bigger thing.
And Takriti, you had a question?
I do know at the beginning of educology is the ability to utilize the coaching platform with the youth. And what I thought about with the educology program is very great, because what I do is I practice educology in my community. I was part of the first educology group, and what I do is I utilize coaching mechanism, limited belief practices to help children with their mindset, to change their mindset, to help stop with the bullying. And if someone is bullying you, learn how to deal with certain platforms to make your education where it's not hard. See, when you think of educology as a means, it's not just on the platform of ecology, it's educology is all around, where ecology is utilizing our coaching platforms to help children to also become coaches. I teach children to be coaching in a manifestation of where they can utilize problem solving, conflict resolution skills to help them with their education. So that's what I take educology to my community with.
Okay. So my next question is, so how do we remove those blocks towards education that the parents have to elicit a better outcome for our children's learnings?
Actually, funny enough, I thought just came up with your question for what something Takriti said. And I love that, Takriti, that you said, you know, it's also about showing the children the coaching skills for them to learn them, to bring it forward. Because if we talk about role models, there's no age limit. You know, like Steve had his brother as his role model. A 10-year-old can be a role model to another 10-year-old. So it's not just only about the adults being role models, but it's also to give the skills to the kids to be role models. And if you think about it, when the kids start saying, look, this is what I'm passionate about, and ask the parents to help, most parents will not turn around and say no, because they have the best influence of the kids at heart. So to your question, Will, it's literally for me, it's kind of a process where we start small and it grows out of that. And we're not here to give out about the education system. The education system is important. If you look 200 years ago, where people had no access to education, and they couldn't write and read, and They just, you know, couldn't better themselves because they weren't able to learn the skills. They had nowhere to go. Schools are important, right? We need a certain amount of education and a certain amount of subjects we have to learn. And I use it as in have to learn. But if we say, well, I'm not good at math, I'm just never take it, and I can't even put 1 and 1 to 2, you know, we won't get anywhere. There are certain skills we just benefit greatly from when we learn them. I would put it that way. So it's the attitudes around it, how we approach it and how we do it. And I think if people become aware of the traps we have all fallen into, that's when we can change. It's like a mini revolution, but not in a revolution and tearing things down, just from the root upwards, where we see how can we do it better. And we know it's not working because mental health issues are getting bigger with kids, you know, everything. So we know there is a problem, we're all aware of it, but let's try and work together and really address the main problems, that the system isn't working, and slowly get a new mindset rather than tearing the house down. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah. The way I see it is, again, it comes back to leading by example. So we just show them that there's a different way of doing something, because they've been brought up in the education system, and it's very, very rigid and set in stone that this is the way things have got to be. It's just giving them that break and going, well, not really. There's another way of doing things. And if you're interested, this is what we do. And it's to help them see the strengths within themselves. That's where I would like, and it doesn't matter who it is, it doesn't matter if it's children, it doesn't matter if it's parents, because equally both of them will have an effect on each other, because my children were my role models to me. When I saw how ambitious, how driven they were, how passionate they were, I thought, I want some of that. I want a taste of that. And then that's what made me strive to be better. Not be perfect, not be good enough, just be better. And I would love to pass that on to other people. It's like Ken says, you teach a man how to fish. If he can feed himself, you teach a man to teach a man how to fish, then the whole village will get fed. So it's the same way with this. It's teaching people how to follow their passions and their desires and their dreams without any limitation that they put on themselves.
So we put they put the limitations on themselves, and the education system seems to be of a fixed mindset. So how do you go about changing that?
Actually, I would suggest reading out what Aaron wrote down.
I was just about to, just
That's
flicking
really
through,
good. Yeah.
just flicking through it, Gabby. So while I'm flicking through it, if someone wants to answer that for me, and then we can go to what Aaron has posted in the chat.
I mean, the first step is to acknowledge that the educational system itself is nothing, right? So it is people. This is something we have to recognize, that even a state or country, it's not a country, it's a concept, right? It's always people. And behind the educational system, it's people. So there is a secretary of education, and there is school principals, and there are teachers. So, and like changing the mindset of, yeah, the system has to change. The system can't change because the system is people. And that's the first roadblock we have to remove, that we think the system itself will heal itself. That will never happen. So we have to start to go first, right? And I see myself as an example. My daughter Sarah was watching me for 4 years on my ecology journey. right? I started taking my first courses in ecology 2018, and she was watching what I was doing there, right? And she was picking up from discussions we had, something about change and how we can change. And so it is, as parent, we have to go first, right? So when we have very rigid parents who believe in the importance of the educational system and the curriculum and anything else, so how will our kids turn out, or their kids turn out, right? They will believe in it too, or they get rebellious and want to fight against it when the pressure is too high, right? So, but for me, it's like, start with yourself, start with looking at yourself, otherwise it doesn't work.
So Aaron's dropped into the chat, and if someone would kindly like to, while the answer's coming, type it back in so he can read it, because his audio and video is not up to par today. But what Aaron said here is modern generation of children are unfortunately being distracted away from self-awareness education, which is the spiritual foundation for all children's entire lifetime. Because of a child enlightened by their self-understanding is the only way for them to foster, discover their future work strengths and potentials to succeed in their skills, passions, to have a real happy life. Not self-ignorance lying to the inner self, which is sadly the current ambience of today's majority of child population, due to political influences and commercial monopolies focusing on money and material-driven projects instead of the wiser devotion that is health and simplicity driven. Projects for children to feel more trust with their parents and generate in a general community. Any thoughts on what Aaron said there?
I would say that is really related with the do, have, be, right? That we have been taught. You have to study to have a house, to have a family, to be someone. And it should be reverted in education, right? We have to be someone, and then we can do things to have whatever we want. But it's like everyone has been saying the whole morning, right? To changing the switch that maybe the system that we have been taught before hasn't been working. And that's why, as Gabby said, now there are more mental disorder in kids. There are statistics that there is a percentage, about 20%, that more likely the youth nowadays are going to be likely to have mental disorder when they become adults, which is insane. And that's why I love this activity that we're having today, because if we can afford and give like a seed to change the system, something that I've been thinking since I don't know how old I was, that they never taught us about love ourselves, to look inside, right? Like you guys have been saying, like are the things that we really like? What are the things that interested us? Everything is just about a grade and how high you can get, but not what you learn from the things that you're learning, because sometimes we're pressured to get that grade and we study for the next day, but that knowledge, it gets and disappear because we were not interested in learning that, just getting the grade. So it's how to motivate kids to actually learn, right? Because it really happens to me. I say history passed through me. I didn't pass through history. I think that I have to go back and study history of the world to understand more things that I don't know, because I always study for the grades. But then if you talk to me about, the words, yes, I know the words existed and all of that, but the how the conflict started and why and all of that, no, because I wasn't focused on learning the history, but getting the grade. So that is something that also is something that have to change. I don't know how to do. It's like a based education on grades, right? Because it has been proved that sometimes a kid that can be really bad at school is amazing in something else, and is then in life like an entrepreneur and a millionaire. Within it, when oh, that kid was bad at school, it wasn't bad at school. It's just the system education wasn't paying attention to what he was really good at.
Yeah, that was really that was excellent, Karen. Yeah, it's good to see it that way, because most of the successful people never even finished high school, because it just wasn't in line with what they wanted to do. So they left school, done what they've done, and they are now very successful people. So it's when Aaron mentioned the money and material driven. Every child, especially here in Britain, every child, the schools get £5,000 per term per child. So it's all about numbers. It's all about how many kids they can get in. The schools are taking in too many children for them to actually teach them the curriculum properly. And even when it comes to like severe bullying or anything like that, the schools will not expel any children, because that's £5,000 a term that they'll lose for that child. So they'll keep that child in school. And they're pressurising the kids because it's all about the best grades, like you mentioned, Karen. That's all the schools seem to care about, because it reflects well on the schools. It doesn't matter what the kids are going through to get those grades. I don't care how many schools say that they care about children's mental health, because they don't. All they care about is the grades. And I've seen kids as young, even as young as 12 and 13 going through their end of year exams self-harming, because they're just finding that much stress. And they cannot find anybody to go to talk to about this. So this is the type of support that we want to get put into schools. But it's penetrating the schools is near impossible. So we are trying, if we can't get into the schools, we will set up outside the schools, and we will draw in as many kids as we can to let them know that it's not the end of the world. The schools, it's like Matt says, they're outdated. They are so outdated. And they're very number orientated. I don't care about the numbers. I don't care about the grades. I care about the kids. The kids are our future. How we treat them is how the future's going to go. And that's where my passion lies, really does lie. So, yeah.
And this is so important to see. Okay, this is all the mechanics, right? This is the law. You have to go to school. I'm from Germany. So in Germany, you have to go to school. You can't homeschool. So that's a fact. You can't change that. The question is, as a parent, what can I do to support my kid? Because I see my kid suffers in school. And this is upon me. It's my turn to take responsibility and to make hard decisions so that I can support my kid. When I don't do that, so I go with the flow and let my kid swim in this collective thing called school. So, but when I say, no, I don't want that anymore, and my kid says, no, I don't want that anymore, I have to make decisions. And that can be hard decisions. It was for us selling our house and leaving the country because we can't homeschool in Germany, right? It's important for parents to know, when I want a different learning experience for my kids, it can cause very fundamental decisions we have to make, right? Or even if it's allowed in your country to homeschool, for example, and you notice that your kid is not like good in school, not good in school grade-wise, but it doesn't feel good, you have to be like the kind of parent that you can deal with your kid at home. That's what we saw during the pandemic, that 85% of the parents can't deal with their own kids anymore. When you lock them in their houses 24 hours, they can't deal with them. So that was where all the problems started, and violence and everything, what they said, right? It wasn't about COVID. It was just because the parents couldn't deal with their kids. And so this is what parents have to recognize. If I want to change something, I have to take responsibility, and that can be tough.
Takriti.
That's interesting. I was listening to Matt with the ability that they cannot homeschool. So what I was thinking of is that even at home, and I was thinking about people speaking about grades, and I was thinking to myself, dealing with my children, I'm a homeschool mom, but I had children that went to school. And sometimes what I did was my mom gave me the opportunity to show me things that I utilized as an adult. And I think that as an educational system worldwide, since we are globally and we all come from different countries, and different countries, even different states in the United States have different laws, is we can look up where we can find out ways that can help our children benefit from teaching them at home in addition to them going to school, because there are defense mechanisms that we could teach them that will benefit them in the public school system. When I think of ways that, and I would like to talk to Matt more about it, because it may be some resources that I have here in the States that may be beneficial for the people out there where he's at. And when you think about ways that you could utilize education, we do need public schools sometimes, because they do teach our children how to read, how to write, how to do mathematics. But we are the ones that enhance that by reading stories to them at night and participating in ways to help their mental develop the ability to read. And if you're reading to them, they're going to want to do what you do. I think that was Gabby who was talking about our phones. If they see us on our phones all the time, but then they have to see, what are you doing? If they see you on TikTok, they're going to say something. But are you reading? Are you studying? Are you educating yourself? So those are some of the things, like Matt said, his daughter's seen them studying ecology. So those are just some platforms that I think will be beneficial for us if we really, really don't fight the system, learn to merge the system, then that way we can help the system.
That's a very good point, Takiti, because it's not about giving out. It's about how can we find solutions, and that's what we want to do. And it's about having options. The real problem is that we have created this mold, and everybody like, when you bake Christmas cookies, you have a mold with a little star. And that's what we have done for schools. They have created a mold, and every child has to fit into this mold. And if you don't fit in, then there's something wrong with you. And it's just a funny, so there's nothing wrong with schools as such, and not all children hate schools. I loved going to school. I actually liked school, right? So, but it's about creating options, and it's about seeing the individual in the child, and to honor that, and to understand the child and find the right way for them. So if going to school is their thing, perfect. But if it's not, and they learn more through experience, and they need a little bit another system, to have the options to do so. To actually have the option to do what's right for the children. And I think that's where it's lacking a lot at the moment.
Okay. So something you just said there, Gabby, was about the forcing them into a mold, which brings me to think about how we tackle creative learners. So my question is, what can we bring in, or what can you bring in to create the positive outcome for creative learners? Because I know I personally had an experience recently. I have a very creative daughter, and I was a very creative person myself. And so I sat down and studied next to her while it took her a number of hours to complete the tasks that she had to do for school. But we did it in a creative manner, and she blitzed it. So that's the experience with my daughter. And my own experience is that, as I said before, I was labelled that I wouldn't be anything but a hairstylist, but I excelled in the chemistry side of it. Why? Because I learnt it creatively. I learnt science creatively. So what can we do? What can you do as educologists to assist those creative learning children that don't fit into that round hole?
I mean, the first step is to acknowledge that we all learn differently. And this is what we learn in different courses from Kane, that we have all these different sensory systems. So like some like to learn visually and others want to learn auditory. And a bunch of people, they want to learn kinesthetically. They want to do something. So, and this is not built into the curriculum. I mean, it was founded 200 years ago, and it was like, so there is the carrier of knowledge, and then you have a bunch of kids listening to this person, and he's telling something and he's writing something on the blackboard. But today we know that it doesn't work. It works only for 30% of the kids. Yeah, we have creative kids, as you said with your daughter. She has to create things, right? She has to do something with her hands. I mean, schools, there are schools out there, and really good schools out there. They build this into their curriculum, like creative classes, handicraft stuff. But it's not enough, because, for example, science is divided into 3 different subjects. And science is never 3 subjects, it's science. And that needs to be together. So you can't teach physics and chemistry apart from each other. It belongs together, right? Looking from this project-based learning angle on it, right? Having a project and applying all the different things you have learned. You can use your different senses. These are, I mean, the methods and the research is there for 150, 200 years. You just have to apply it. And there are very smart people, like I said before, the guy who invented the strength-based psychology. The knowledge is there since the 30s. We just have to apply it. And so we can, and that's why I like Gabi's idea with the role models. So we have to go first. Yeah, we have to create role models and kids who went through this new way of thinking, right? And the school where Sarah is enrolled, it's a US-based school, and they use all the different possibilities the US law allows them. So they have an off-campus program where you actually can go through projects, right? You start with the initial phase and you plan your own stuff as a student, and then you go through the stuff and you write your reports, and at the end you grade yourself, giving kids responsibility to grade themselves. So Sarah is actually grading herself, plus a tutor. So these are the first steps to change something, right? To educate kids to think differently and to act differently.
So Master Aaron's dropped something else into the chat box, and I'll just read it out for everybody. Children without self-understanding result into a generation full of fears and insecurities, thus then causing the multiple destructive consequence of mental health problems and suicide tendencies in society. The world needs to change its societal and schooling policies into a health-focused curriculum instead of a current socially superficial environment. Children have been influenced to value out-of-self presentations to others instead of motivating children to look inside themselves to build a solid well-being, because then children will be able to express their skills without an empty, fake, hollow inner self. Any thoughts on what Aaron's popped into the chat box?
Well, I think that's knocked the nail on the head, that has, because again, children haven't got time for self-understanding. They are just very much told what to think and how to be and how to dress and everything like that. So it does, because they haven't got time to understand themselves and all these pressures are put on them, self-doubt comes in. And then when they're trying to do things and they don't know how to do it properly, the fear's there. They're scared. They don't know if they're going to do it right. They don't know if they're good enough. So it does cause like destructive consequences in mental health. I mean, suicide, just like I've said, I have seen kids at the age of 12 self-harming because they just find it too stressful to deal with things that they cannot seem to cope with right now. And so giving the child that time to just explore themselves, be who they are, find out what comes naturally to them, and just express themselves. That's what's missing from schools, is a lack of expression and individuality. Every child is to dress the same way, and the individuality is ripped out of schools and ripped out of children. So they've got no sense of identity, they've got no sense of self.
No,
So
that's very true, Stacey.
trying to get that back into the schools, even that alone can give a child that sense of being themselves. I've never understood why wearing a blazer with a badge on it helps their education any better than wearing something that they are comfortable in wearing. So it's that makes so much sense.
It does, doesn't it? It does, makes a lot of sense. Rashmi, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I completely agree with Stacy in this sense, because this is too much instruction is being given when they are very young, so that curbs their thought or thinking freely and their own personality and creativity. So I think today we, as a parent, till the years of 7, because we are too protective towards our children. We give them too much of instruction of doing something and keep a lot of watch, especially with nowadays in countries like India, where there was so much, focus on reducing population. So we have hardly 1 or 2 children per family. So the complete focus of the parents is the child, and they just watching each and every step of the children there. So that is really difficult in that sense, that all the things that we read in the chat will come true, because they are never given an opportunity, the freedom to express their thoughts in the way of they would like to do things. What if they make a mistake? What if they destroy something? Doesn't matter, because rather than destroying their own personality in the later years or even impacting the whole society, it's much cheaper to have one thing broken at home and then let the child learn freely what they want to do, what they want to express, how they want to do the things. So that kind of freedom in the early years is very, very important. As we have all read in the psychology, that it is the 7 years of the early 7 years of the child are very important in shaping the personality of the child. So in that moment, we do not give that freedom to free themselves, to have a security in an environment that, okay, whatever they want to do, they can do. Somebody is there to help me if I think the things go wrong. So rather than being a facilitator or a helper, we almost all the parents become, masters of they want to shape the personality. My child should be like that. They should behave like that. They should be, the dress sense should be like that. What difference it makes to you? Appearance doesn't help you. It's only the inner self that is going to help your child when the child grows up. So yes, the tendency, the way we thought process we want to develop in the child is very, very important. That at least at the age of 7 years, it's very crucial for parents to learn about the real parenting. That is actually much, much important.
So
These are my views.
Yeah, thank you, Rashmi. But going something on what Rashmi just said, it's the development of the children's learning that comes from the parent. So how do we excuse me. So how do we change the mindset of the parents to allow the children to express their creativity in their different forms of learning?
I think it starts with self-awareness, because two questions came up through what Master Aaron said and what Rashmi said, and Stacy. Are we just repeating the things we have learned because we're not self-aware of them? How can we have our children come from the place Aaron was talking about if we can't do it for ourselves? And the other thing is, how much are we actually driven by fear while being a parent or an auntie, or, you know, the fear? I mean, we want to protect the children, but if you think about it, every decision we make is fear driven in a way. So if we're not aware of what drives us in fear, I mean, you know, we were talking about early on, and Matt was talking about, you know, the one first steps a parent can do is not putting their agenda on the child. But how often do we just say, oh yeah, you study hard, get good grades, and then become a doctor because then you looked after and you will be fine. It's all fear driven. You know, be academic well and make loads of money because then you will survive and you will be okay as an adult. It's actually fear driven what we do. So to actually address our own fears also first, I think is very important.
Do you, Ursha's got her hand up, and then we'll go to Karen after Ursha, and then we'll go to Rashmi. Ursha?
Yeah, hi. So I second what Gabby said, that it's about self-awareness and are you operating out of fear? And the thing that I want to add over here is probably the belief that if you have the belief that your child will do better for themselves, the child has all the capabilities to learn, to fall, and to again get up and do. If we have that belief, then probably we will not operate from the fear. If we have the belief and we are ready to allow them to explore, this mindset would help. If we believe that yes, they can do it, rather than having the fear, oh, they cannot do it, or what would happen to them. I think this mindset helps a lot. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ursha. And Karen?
Same what Matt was saying, that everything starts with us, right? If we have to help future generations, we have to start working on ourselves, because how can you change your ways of seeing things if you don't work on yourself, if you don't change your belief? So it's like a holistic system. It's just not for kids. Parents also have to be educated. Teachers also have to be educated about how they can see different perspective and how they can start cutting patterns, right? Because what happened with everything gets repeated because we have certain patterns of thinking, of believing, and if we don't cut them and work on them, history keep repeating. So basically that.
And Sarah?
Yeah, I just thought you were all talking like about improving yourselves and all of that. And I mean, we said before that children and their parents aren't that different. They have a lot of similarities. So don't think you have to look perfect or for a child, or try to improve yourself for a child. Learn with them, learn together. What is so wrong about that? And I mean, I've learned so much just because I saw the mistakes of my parents, because I was part of that. Take your children with you. Let them be part of your life. I mean, they're part of your life. So if you're learning something, take them with you. Yeah, just a thought.
That's a beautiful thought, Sarah, because you made me think of the times I would go out into my father's garage being an engineer, and I learned things that I probably will never know to ever use, but I still know how to do them. And it just made me think of those moments. And it was, yeah, that's how I learned, because he would encourage these things. So Stacey.
Yeah, it's like what Gabby mentioned earlier on about everything that we do, there is a sense of fear with it. It doesn't matter how low the fear is or how high the fear is. It's like when I came on, before I came on with this, this is the first time I've done something like this. And I mentioned about how scared I was and I felt fear before I came on. But whenever I feel that fear, I know that it's something that I need to do. As long as it's not putting me in any physical danger, it's something that I know I need to do. And even doing other things, like having a one-on-one client, doing a group coaching session. My youngest son will go, "How are you feeling?" And I'll go, "Terrified." And they're like, "So what are you going to do?" I was like, "I'm going to go for it anyway." And being able to face your own fears automatically puts it onto your own kids, that it doesn't matter what you come across and you fear, it's okay to face it.
That's very true, Stacey. Very true. So Matt.
I just want to build upon something Sarah said. So, especially in the Western world, today is like, so you have to first have your university degree, and then you have to find a career, and then you have to make loads of money, and then you have to build your big house, and then you start making children. So it has to be, everything has to be perfect, and you're taking the kid away a lot of life lessons, right? When you get your kids when you're 40 or 45, there's a lot of life experience from their parents missing. And the other way around, the parents, they maybe they're married for 15 years or I don't know how long, and they never thought about having like a child in their midst because they were busy making their career and building their house and everything. So this collective idea of everything has to be perfect and then we can have kids, I would like to question that, right?
I totally question it. I totally question it already. But it's not about me. So Gabby.
Yeah, again, Sarah, that was a gold nugget, an absolute gold nugget, what you said. And it ties in what Matt just says, because are we actually ourselves or are we playing the role of parents? In other words, I'm the parent, I have to know it all. And I tell you how it goes. It's a really, really good question. So the idea of not being a know-it-all, but let the kids really be part of your life. Let them see you make mistakes and let them see you can grow from them. And that's what a wonderful concept. Thank you, Sarah. That is just a gold nugget. So are we playing the role of the perfect parent where everything is met, that is everything is perfectly set up and you're perfect and you show the kids how everything is perfect, or just be yourself, make the mistakes and show the kids you can learn from them and let them be part of you.
So a lot of, as we all probably have ascertained here, our children are sponges of ourselves. They absorb everything we do, our fears, the fear of failures. So how do we change that in the adults so that we can create a better parenting child learning experience?
Can you repeat the question, Will, please?
Children are basically sponges and they absorb everything that we do. So how do we create a better experience for them by exposing them, well, reducing the parents' fears and the fear of failure, so that the child knows that however they go about it, it's okay.
Okay. I would like to comment on that if you don't
Okay, Chakriti?
One thing that we want to do is teach children that failure is okay, first of all, because the option is, you know, when you fall off a bike, you may hurt yourself. That's a failure to some children. Say, for instance, you may trip and fall. That's a failure to some people. Fall means failure. But we got to remember that failing don't mean failure. Failing just means you fail at that particular time. So we have to teach them that it's okay to fall, but it's not okay to be a failure. So failing means that you're learning. Everybody fails. There's nobody, and you have to inform a child that everybody fails. You failed in some point in your life. So if they always see you doing something good, no, it took me a long time. I used to be a kid and I failed here, or, and make it pleasurable. We got to stop making everything painful for children. Children are human beings. You don't want to feel no pain. But we got to remember that children are human beings. They have feelings, they have emotions, they touch, they feel. So when you give them the opportunity to be little adults, you give them the opportunity to be free in speech. So when you say about failing, teach them that it's okay to fail, but it's not okay to be a failure.
So going by what you were just saying there, Takriti, so how do we with the use of educology, how do we educate the parents that it's okay to show their fears and their failures, and it's okay to fail? Because society basically says that we have to conform and be at certain markers in life. That is, as Matt said, people have children later in life because they've hit all those markers, and they think that it's okay now to have children. So how do we bring around the different mindsets that it's okay to actually say to my children, I failed. It's okay, I failed.
I think it's creating awareness, first of all, among the parents and the adults people, because more than the children, they need to learn how they behave. Like Takiti was just saying that falling and failing is, don't have to afraid. But if a parent is afraid of, oh, my child will fall when he starts cycling or something, so that fear will automatically go to the child. We cannot say the child to be brave. If I am fearing in my heart that, oh, my child will fall and it will hurt, it will be painful, I'm afraid of doing that. So I must, be on the side of the child. So that my fear is going to the child without my knowing. So that first of all, that awareness among the parents, among the adults is very, very important. If I do not know what impacts my child, what I'm sending that is negatively, if my child is absorbing negatively, then how can I teach? Teaching is not actually a way of doing something, because children do not learn what we teach them. It's absolutely clear. I know everybody knows the hair who is present here, that they don't learn what we tell them to do, what we teach them. They learn what they observe. If they are stuck, see that their parents have a lot of fear. They are always talk about, what if my child fail in the examination? We cannot tell that. If we speak this, okay, it is okay if you fail. But the child inside knows that it's not okay if I fail.
They learn
Yeah.
they learn that at a very, very early age. I was lucky. I grew up with a mum that if you fell over, she usually spat in her hand and wiped your knee and said, off you go. You're right. What did you learn? Not to do that again? Yes, mum. So Master Aaron's put another comment in here. Due to the current more modernized world with constant influences from children's insecure parents, their country's cultural expectations, and politicians' unhealth prioritized lawmaking, is what has created a generation full of children being cotton wrapped to only follow what their elders impose into their young minds, instead of providing a societal environment that allows children to express their concerns without fear of isolation and degradation from their surroundings. Thus, modern society is not embracing children that are wanting to evolve into their unique human being rather than being corruptly molded to auto-follow the society status quo, which is one of the reasons that current generations of children are more and more rebellious against their elders due to their behaviours being suppressed. Any thoughts on that? And that'll be the last, that's the last one. We've got a few moments left, everybody. So if anyone wants to say something quickly so we can wrap up.
I think that was always the case. I mean, you saw the comments earlier as far back as Egypt in 6,000. But young people rebel, and they rebel against things which hold them back. That's what they really rebel about, because I think we are born with self-awareness. We're very self-aware of our babies in a way that we know what we want and what we need. And I think it's slowly knocked out of us as we grow older. And yeah, so I think we were always rebellious. I mean, I'm the end part of the hippie times. We were very rebellious. So I think it was always there. And the question is, when does it happen when we even stop doing that as teenagers and we conform? Because guess what? None of my hippie friends who had wild ideas at the time are hippies anymore. They're very conform with the houses and that little car. And, you know, you don't find them anymore because they have bought into everything because it's easier. So it's fearful. I don't know. But that's probably a question. We won't be able to answer that today anyway. Nobody probably knows.
No. So thank you, everybody. Great discussion. And now that brings us over to Rashmi Sharma, and she's going to talk to us all about how we identify anxiety in students.
Thank you so much. It was a wonderful discussion. Thank you. Stephen, I think Stephen
Thank
was
you,
there.
thank you, Will. I just wanted to thank Will for leading that panel discussion, and to welcome us to the next section. So we've broken this down into kind of 3 sections. The first one, you know, following the skilled helper model in a way, where are we at, and maybe what is the problem that we're dealing with, and then, you know, some ways of moving forward. So what we're looking at in this next section is, you know, some of the problems or some of the things that may exist within the current education system. And Rashmi Sharma is sharing one of the main problems that, you know, for the students that have it, is the recognizing the anxiety in the students. Academic stress, academic anxiety is a pretty substantial problem for high performance schools, for kids that are exceptional learners, but in a challenging academic environment. So I welcome you to start your presentation. Rashmi has been, you know, involved with the education system. She's also a positive resilience coach, and she helps people find growth beyond personal unwanted feelings. She specializes in the emotions of anxiety, stress, anger, and she calls herself a behavior change coach and a leadership coach. So I'm really looking forward to this presentation. And Rashmi, if you would, go ahead and take it away.